Welcome to Profiles in Eccentricity, a show about weirdos. With your hosts, John Fahey, Aaron Peter, and Matt Brousseau.
Hello, folks. Welcome to Profiles in Eccentricity. It's a show about weirdos, doggone it. My name is John Fahey, and it is John Boy time. Joining me as ever, the pinnacle of perversion. 3 children stacked in a trench coat, each of them ripped with huge cocks. You're going to like the way he looks. I, Aaron Piet. Aaron Joseph Pita.
I am the Marquis.
You are.
And I am the greatest pervert.
Yes. You are a total chaos.
A total chaos.
You are a
That's
total
right.
chaos. You are the greatest pervert.
That's right. That's me. And to my right,
My left, soul of the show,
light of my life, the wind beneath my wings.
handsome young Matt Brousseau.
Thank you, folks. It's wonderful. It's wonderful.
Isn't that nice?
We just recorded a little thing before this.
That's right. We were just on.
We're just on vodka fumes and grenadine.
Yeah, drinking some not advocates, vodka blush.
Yes.
I think it doesn't exist.
We're going to be appearing on a podcast about the Rosemary's Baby film, taking it 600.
Your favorite director, Roman Polanski.
Absolutely not true at all.
If your idol.
And not absolutely false.
The
False.
hero you wish you
False.
could have met at a party.
Nope. Aaron loves Chinatown, and it's all about him, and he loves Roman Polanski, and he defines child abusers.
I thought you liked the neighborhood, and I didn't realize it was there.
Oh, yeah, I know. I'm into Chinatown. You live there. I love
live there.
Chinatown.
It's great. Melody, huh? What a place.
Forget about it.
I mean, I can't.
Who can forget?
Hey, forget about it. It's Chinatown.
Forget about it, bro. It's fucking Chinatown, dude. It's great to be here with you boys.
Yeah, welcome back.
You guys look
Welcome
so good.
back.
You guys-
We spent a week without you, you know.
not even a couple of days, but
I
yeah,
sobered up. It was weird.
It felt like a lifetime.
it felt right.
Yeah.
Isn't it so bad when I'm gone?
Yeah.
Aaron
What?
texted me like within 3 hours of me being home. He's like, "Are you back, you bitch?" And I was like, "The bitch is back." You know.
That's exactly what I did. And you know what? I'm not ashamed of
You
it.
might have called me a slut. I don't remember
I
what it
did.
was.
You probably should have.
I called you a slut.
Yeah. We often do.
And you peeked there. Hold on. You keep talking. I'm going to fix your...
I did peak.
Yeah, you peaked in fucking high school.
long
bro.
ago.
I'm peaking now.
Yeah, I peaked. When I was dropped out of high school.
I peeked through the blinds.
Yeah, of course you do. Peeping tomboy like you.
Peeping tomboy?
That's right.
Well, like I'm a girl that's
Yeah, that's right.
good at soccer? What are you
No,
talking
you're peeping tomboy like.
Peeping Tom.
Yeah, well, you're non-binary, so you're.
Gender. I don't see gender. Everyone's just a wet hole.
Thank you.
To me.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Aaron, you know I've been talking about this hit bomb. You know I love it.
Oh,
You know it makes me feel good when I'm hurt,
when you're all inflamed.
when I'm in pain. It is anti-inflammatory. Aaron,
right.
thank you for bringing that up. It is all natural. Is it plant-based? I think so. Is it martial arts hit medicine based on years and years of herbal
Is it vegan?
Chinese? It is vegan. Is it kosher? Yes.
God, thank God. Is it halal?
It is.
I love that.
It's from
I'm in.
Well,
Colorado,
because,
CBD.
Allah is the one true God and Muhammad is his prophet.
And, go to hitbomb.com.
And now, do you have some sort of promo code? Or a
It
coupon
is,
code?
if you get any of the products, you get 15% off with the code my name, JOHNFAHY. All caps, I believe. But also, you can get
What?
free samples
What?
with the code profiles on the website.
Are you fucking...
Without any promotion whatsoever.
What a world.
Enter profiles. You can get
No
free
purchase
samples.
necessary.
Yeah, you can see if you like it first.
Try it before
then you
buy
come
it.
back.
Don't waste it, taste it.
Try
you.
it out.
Yeah,
What a world.
it's very exciting times.
I'm excited right now.
Are you excited?
I'm excited.
Are you boys excited?
You're excited. Feel these nipples. It's Bob Costas in the motion picture film Basketball.
That's right.
Isn't that very nice?
Classic.
Now, Matt, I believe you wanted to give a shout out to a very special friend of ours.
Shout out to Hacked Dead, who's been a fan of ours. He was also there for the 27-hour Halloween stream.
Dino's.
Keep it up, Hacked Dead. Thank you for your support.
Yeah, thank
was
you.
really cool.
Thank you for your support. You sent us a video a while back that was really transcendent.
Yeah, that was something.
Probably not okay to share, but Thank you.
I think it's not there anymore, but it was piss-based. And, despite, check us out on the Twitters, the Instagrams, the YouTubes.
Mm-hmm.
I would apologize to Camilla, but I won't.
Right.
Tell
Tell them about Camilla. What happened with Camilla?
She checked out the Cherry Sisters episode on YouTube and said, I tried listening to this, but after 10 minutes, they didn't get to the subject and just talked about drinking piss like immature minors. And I will say, Camilla, first off, we're not minors.
And how many minors do you know drink piss?
I mean, not enough, probably.
I mean, maybe the ones that are trapped in the bottom of a mine shaft in Chile.
Yeah.
Those kind of miners, yeah.
Golden miners.
What do you want them to drink? They're trapped, pal.
It's a gold mine.
You piss in my mouth, I'll piss in yours, pal.
Yeah, it'd be like an infinite loop.
Willy Wonka. Yeah.
Yeah, and also just, scoot that little thing ahead.
Yeah,
and
you-
just,
you-
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever used the internet before, but you don't even have to sit through the piss drink.
It's
thing.
crazy. It's
you
weird.
Can, you can
It's
fast
really
forward
weird.
right through the free content.
Yeah, the thing you paid nothing for.
Also, we
That
talked
has
about
no
a guy-
ads on it.
Yeah.
There's no penalty for fast forwarding. There's no forced survey or anything. We're not that big, so you can just scoot right ahead,
I mean, you would have missed a story about a guy breaking his back.
Yeah, that was a really good episode.
which
We
is
talked-
final.
His back
It
was
is
broken.
final.
His back was broken.
His back is broken, and we had a lot of dumb shit in that episode. The Cherry
Yes.
Sisters,
Yes, that was fun.
the guy with what else was that?
Oh, there was
Oh, was that the guy that broke his back and then got a huge ass boner?
Well, he started running. From the cops.
No, that was the guy that he jumped a ditch and all that
that's
stuff.
right,
Yeah,
broke
in
his
Florida.
back.
It was fun times.
He spinally broke it.
Guys, we were talking about the race relations
In this country?
In this country,
And how they're
before the program began.
Yikes.
I want to talk
As we
to
do
you.
before every program.
Yes, we talk about
We
the
solved the race.
state of the nation.
Yeah, we solve
we
it
sorted
every-
it out.
yeah.
Pythagoras.
It's on it's Patreon.
Pythagorean. I want to talk to you about a man named Asa Alonso Allen. A. Allen.
Not Gigi Allen.
Yes.
He was. Do you know about him?
very vaguely.
He was a Pentecostal type, revivalist preacher.
Yes.
And he was born in 1911. And he was kind of like a drunk guy. He had
A drunk guy?
yeah, he was
You know
sort of
the type.
drunk, and he was born to a white and Native American parent, and he started getting involved with like the church, he
As you do.
he started fucking around being a drunk, and then he got involved with these things, and he was started just getting involved with various churches. It was like the main thing going on back then.
What
was
else?
churches, right?
Yeah, it's the town common, basically.
And he went to start to preach himself, and he got a ordination from the Assemblies of God in 1936, and he had a
Shut up.
small church in Colorado, and he was doing things in Texas, and then he was going on to do the tents. Now the tents are a big fucking thing,
The
right?
tent revivals are big.
The
Because
tents,
you can take them anywhere. They're tents.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Well, I mean, wait, what year was this?
well,
This is
47 is he
This is
starting to
1947.
he's starting to do the tent stuff,
Because,
and,
Woodhull, she was conceived in a sort of tent revival scene.
that-
right.
Yeah.
So now you're having this,
Modern tent.
influx of the post-war
Happiness.
stuff, and the burgeoning technology, Aaron.
And then the booming middle class.
Right, and you have he's like, I want to start a God healing type thing, and I want to have a radio station to document these miracles, right?
As you do.
That's that. This is
Did you
following the program.
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
and so he kind of gets all of that,
touch of Brinkley?
He they don't, the church is like, we're not doing any fucking radio shit, right? And then they refuse. He's like, I'm fucking doing my own shit, and now I'm gonna do this whole fully revivalist thing without any association. It's just like, show up, there's a tent that says Jesus, right? And now you're just a carnival religion on the road, right? Kind of brilliant.
Yeah.
And if there's no denomination, if there's no institution behind it, then isn't it kind of just entertainment, right? So that's what he's doing.
Life's a tilt-a-whirl.
And he starts doing a healing line ministry. He starts doing the radio stuff. He starts doing television stuff. And he's bringing in more and more, he wasn't the first person to do this, but he claimed to be, more and more African Americans. And, Billy Graham in the 50s had started, desegregating churches and stuff like that. But this guy was like the first that was like, you saw churches on TV that were like choir, black and white. Clergy, black and white. Congregation, black and white.
Well, the TVs were black and white.
Right, yeah, that's exactly, yeah. Thank you.
I don't know if you knew that.
Terrific contribution. Fucking asshole.
Yeah, fuck you, dude.
So he had a large tent that he purchased in 1955 for $8,500. That's a big fucking
big
tent.
tent.
Holy shit, what was it
Right.
lined with?
And, it was like, there was a bunch of other, people doing this same type of hucksterism bullshit at the same time. And you would have these things where like, the tents get bigger and bigger, and, people show up and they have bad backs, etc., and they get sat in wheelchairs.
Yeah.
And then they fucking get pushed up to the front, and you got to heal the bad back. But the crowd just sees a guy standing up out of a wheelchair.
Right.
A crowd that big, too. Yeah,
And they don't
fucking
know
idea.
the person never needed a wheelchair to begin with, so
Right.
all they see is miracles all day long, right?
Fuck.
And
Good move.
he's got like a fucking drunk driving charge. He gets arrested outside Knoxville, and everybody just like covers up for him. And
Did he have a tent with him? He was just driving. He wasn't driving the tent.
no, he was not driving a tent.
Okay, I don't know. You got pulled over with
It's
the
hard
tent.
to drive a tent.
Yeah.
He stays on the revival whole thing, and he gets a tent that can seat 22,000.
What? That's not a.
Now that's a big tent.
That's
Aaron.
not. Is that?
I don't know if you know.
That's
about
like
tents,
3
but that's
tents.
big, Aaron.
I mean, that's
I don't know
like that's a 15th.
I don't know what
That's
you
a
took
fucking-
Boy Scouts to in your tent, but
It's a college
this is a big
stadium.
tent. And he was like one of the first evangelists to talk about poverty being an evil spirit, right?
Right. This prosperity gospel.
So now you have the threat of financial miracles, right?
Oh, the threat?
Yeah. Like the possibility. And so he's, hanging that over people. And at the fucking height of his popularity, he was on 58 radio stations,
Were they good ones?
43 TV stations.
Shit, that's all of them.
Dude,
Yeah, back then.
it's fucking insane.
There was no cable.
The publishing company was doing 60 million pieces of literature per year. Miracle Magazine had a monthly circulation of 450,000 copies of Miracle Magazine.
It's a miracle.
There was accounts of healings, but there was also a disclaimer that was like, "Hey, man, this is all fucked up, but we don't
No
believe
proof
shit."
of any of this.
Your X-ray
A
specs
lot
will show
of
up.
legal outs, right? And they were always, of course, accused of massive financial impropriety. And
Yeah, by who? The unhealed?
Yeah.
well, that's
Yeah.
the thing, So there was no physicians around to talk about his miracles. There was none of that bullshit. They also had legal things to say, like you can't even act like this was a miracle, otherwise we can sue
Right.
you. They were so out of it. But then, of course, you have the press, right? You have a free press. And they can go and they're like, we want to prove that this guy's a fucking fraud. So they start showing up and they have like their fucking notepads and stuff. And so he just has fucking goon squads punching these people out. Like just knocking out the fucking press, right?
Oh, apostles.
Anybody with a camera, anybody with a notepad, ba-boom! Just fucking like dudes going around. Get the fuck out of here.
No notepads allowed in God's
Yep.
house.
I mean, you write it in your head.
Yeah.
And so them having like a racially integrated thing, that was a big deal at the time. Probably Jim Jones was inspired by this kind of thing. Mm-hmm. It just being total devotion, no matter what. It's all Jesus. Doesn't matter. When you're a scam artist,
You don't care.
Yeah,
You only care about green.
there is no hierarchy.
Yeah.
It's just a pyramid that leads to
You're
you.
all at the bottom.
Yeah, you get all the money, right? So, it was like, then he's seen as this progressive, right? And then it adds to his reputation. It's like, hey, look, this fucking, this...
He's scamming blacks and whites.
Well, no.
He's really woke.
It was
Equal
like,
opportunity,
it was a
yeah.
thing that, like, you would be like, oh, most of the churches are racist white things. And now this guy is, like, being like... Hey, it's not like that. So now you get some kind of like liberal press over it. And instead of them just sussing out that like, oh no, you're just a scumbag charlatan.
Yeah.
And so now they're kind of like, they have like a thing. It's like, oh, we're the good people. We're the nice people, And he was, against any kind of, denominational stuff. There was no time for that. It's all about you and Jesus. If you're a part of any organized religion, you're a fucking idiot, and fuck you.
Well, I mean, that's one of those things that when you join his, you feel like you're smarter than. So,
Man, people love that.
yeah.
Yeah, there was a guy named Urbane Leyendecker.
No.
And
not a real name.
New Year's Day, 1958. He was a recent convert to the church. He offered him 1,280 acres of land in Arizona. And it was expanded to about twice that size, 2,500 acres.
Oof.
And it was named Miracle Valley because all these people were getting healed there, right?
Yeah, hey.
And there would be people that would go up and, think they were like, I got Satan in me, and, then get cured, by him on stage. And, it's the whole thing where it's just like, man, suggestion is just so powerful where you could really maybe go up there and think like, man, I motherfucking do not have arthritis anymore, or whatever the case may be. And it becomes just this huge, it's like the righteous gemstones.
Yeah.
It's like, it's a compound of religious people and all of the printing presses they need to get their magazines out, all of the media stuff they need. And meanwhile, this guy is just kind of a fucking secret drunk.
Huh.
He's just kind of a maniac, and this is all sort of working out for him because he's just got so much fucking gumption.
Who are his handlers other than the Goon Squad's doing their one thing, but who are the right and left hand people that are able to?
Well, there's the higher up people, like the people that would cover up his his binges and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a divorce in 1967. With his 4 children under it. He dies in 1970 in a hotel in San Francisco. Even then, Don Stewart, which was his successor, was accused of covering up all of the pills and booze. And he died with like 0.36 alcohol in his system, which is enough to
That's a record.
be in a coma.
Yeah.
So that's just facts, right? But people...
Okay, I like
But now
that.
I'm pretty sure that these type of people aren't too concerned with facts.
Right, yeah. I mean, but the thing is, like, he had expanded the church to have all of these pastors under his wing. Over 10,000.
10,000 pastors.
Yes. The power of radio, the power of television,
right.
that you can start up what he's doing, which has no denomination, but anything with a denomination didn't have this fucking power.
Yeah.
Well,
because it's limiting.
Right. So you are weirdly like the most fucking institutional religion now, even though it's just because it's new media, you act like, oh no, I'm not, right? So, because it was so, racially diverse and everything else, there was a woman that was a pastor, and her name was Frances Thomas, with an E-S. Apparently it denotes...
Frances?
Femininity.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like Frances
I don't believe in gender. Maybe, Aaron, you do. In
I don't
your
believe
old kind
in
of
anything.
weird
I believe
ways.
in nothing.
Nice.
So she was one of the 10,000, over 10,000, brought in from the broadcasting of, A.A. Allen. And she starts, doing this whole thing in Chicago. And her son gets into it too, William Thomas Jr. And she's trying, after his death, to purchase the whole 2,500 acre thing in Arizona that was, the original
Miracle
Valley Church, and she wants to start it over like in kind of her image. And it's been given to a Bible school because it's in Cochise County, Arizona. It's very close to the border, and they have a Spanish speaking Bible school there.
That's nice.
And the guy leases to them for like 20 years for $1 a year. It was a very Christian sort of thing to do. And so they can't buy the original land, which she wants to do because she wants to start over the whole fucking thing that Allen had started and, have her be the leader. And so she just buys, like, all the surrounding land or, like, the closest land she can to it. But, like, tons of acres, former restaurants. She starts the whole compound that's in her church's name, which is the Christ Miracle Healing Center and Church.
That's kind of a mouthful. I don't know if I would...
Yeah, it's not as good as, Miracle Valley, etc. But so she's got almost entirely black congregation. And the first ones that start showing up on this land after she gets it are all the ones from Mississippi. Now, she has a mainly Mississippi crowd in Chicago, and she's not there yet. But when they start showing up in Cochise County, it's people that are white followers of Allen. And now these black people show up from Mississippi, and they are black followers of Allen, right?
So not a problem at all.
And they're both kind of country. That's no big deal.
That's
78,
nice.
79, black and white. And he was very pro-integration of races, right? Not a big deal. How about when the Chicago black folks start showing up?
Oh, these are city folks.
City folk. Not a huge hit, Aaron.
I wouldn't think so.
Well, the Osmonds made it work.
The Osmonds?
A little bit
I'm a little bit country, I'm a little right.
Yeah. Very good.
Very nice.
So they're all, the whole thing.
I thought you were talking about incest for some reason. The Osmonds made it work.
Brother.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, they're whatever, they're doing this thing that's very Pentecostalish, but again, non-denominational.
You don't look like you're from around here. Yeah, you don't look like you're from around here.
And, so she's got maybe, let's say, a more eccentric view of how to do church when she shows up. And they are life or death devoted to her. Frances Thomas. They are like, she is the be-all, end-all. And the cops at the time are saying that there was like 24-hour basically church services on the premises. And there was some people's job, allegedly, like from, when they do that thing where they have you in the pew and they like stick that big basket with the long stick to get your money?
Yeah.
Instead of the money basket, if you were just falling asleep, they would just whack you on the top of the head from the side of the pew.
Well, whatever it takes to make you believe.
Yeah, and these things would just go on for hours and hours and hours. And the kids that are going to the local schools are observed by teachers to have what they said was like severe sleep deprivation.
Sure.
Because this shit was just going on forever, right? But what do you got? 300 people in this like sort of border white surrounding town. Like they have a lot of power, okay? Because there's a lot of them.
No local baseball team. What are they doing for recreation these days?
So they
Church.
have like, this like little bit of a problem where there's some light robberies, right? And
now and who,
burglaries, let's say, of white people, allegedly.
Okay.
This is the Chicago's?
Well, no, who knows,
Who's to say?
But there's just this distrust falls over them, and you go like, obviously the black people stole from me, right?
And it's the black people from Chicago in particular.
Well, there wasn't any problems when it was the Mississippi black people, they say.
They say.
But also there wasn't as many, for sure, right?
Got it.
So they start having like this harassment from the cops, and the church is like, all right, well, we're just going to have fucking like kind of our own police force. And like if you come anywhere near our shit, we have roadblocks and we have Commandos for Christ, a.k.a. Soldiers for Jesus. And if we believe that...
AKA what?
If we believe that basically like one of our congregants' lives is in jeopardy in your hands, we'll just shut down the road as they flee back here, and then.
Well, were these dirt roads? Or these weren't federally owned?
No. These are paved roads, and they get back there, and they have CB radios. They're armed too. They have guns, right? These are black folks in Arizona, from Chicago and Mississippi. Never been there before. Soldiers of Jesus, Commanders for Christ, and the cops are just kind of having to go, oh, okay.
Man, they
Right?
outgunned us.
In July 1981, the deputies were trying to arrest a church member, and they were surrounded by church members.
Oh, boy.
And they had to bail. The cops had to bail. Right? So they're cops, so what? Who gives a shit?
God's on my side.
And they start...
me and 12 other people,
They start just handling this in a very, like, politically, like, correct way for the time, where they're, like, bringing, like, public safety officers with the sheriffs, and, like, there's always, like, this thing of, like, let's get an intermediary, and
Sure.
all this
Translator,
stuff.
a guy dressed like Jesus, just to...
So a couple of deputies are trying to make an arrest on a church member, and a bunch of armed church members basically, show them off. And then, think about being a cop. What do? You're like, I'm a fucking cop. I got into this for power. We're going to show up heavy-handed, right? Yeah. So that's what they do. And the sheriff, Sheriff Judd said it was supposed to show, like, nobody's above the law. And by then, like, by the fall, it becomes like a fight for control. Like, who actually runs Miracle Valley?
Right.
Is it the church with roadblocks and armed police people with CB radios, or is it the sheriff's department, right?
It's like Rajnishi?
Rajnishi.
In Oregon. Yeah.
County supervisor says, the best we can hope for is an uneasy truce. Sheriff's deputy says, we're outgunned and outmanned. A person that lives in the neighborhood that isn't affiliated with either organization says it's going to end in death.
Well, I've been here for a few years. I mean, even if they're even numbers, they still have Jesus on their side, so that's gonna.
So again, yes, there's no trouble according to the residents until Thomas shows up with the Chicago Brigade, and they just start accusing each other of racism. Thomas,
within their own ranks? You mean? Or
no. Like, the white people would say, like, oh, yeah, they were racist towards us. The black people say we're racist, whatever. But Thomas would apparently call anybody white boy. Not a good look in the 80s.
And especially when it's not White Boy Day.
Well, right, yeah. But, I mean, also, it's a black woman. This is good old boy country.
Yeah,
they are. I'm not saying it's not a good look. I'm saying it's a dangerous look, right?
Yeah.
But she kind of knows, like, I got a lot of fucking people here. And, like, I'm kind of considering myself the inheritor to this church that is a huge influence in this area, right? But obviously she's kind of not winning over any white congregants.
But does that matter?
Right, yeah. So
it doesn't matter until it does.
Until it does, yes.
So
and then it matters.
Oh.
The regional commander of the Arizona Department of Public Safety said that Sheriff Judd asked the governor for a tank to go into the valley to annihilate those black people.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those black ain't bound.
Yeah, he used a different
We
term.
didn't have army surplus back then.
Yeah.
And
The Vietnam War hadn't handed us a bunch of weapons.
That's so scary.
a federal judge said that the sheriff's department was riddled with racism. And he says, it seems to me that everyone in Cochise County was going to either get their licks against the church one way or another. There was apparently children at play signs that were put up around the county at the request of the church. On the signs put up by the sheriff's department were cartoon stereotypes of distinctly African-American children.
Yikes.
With the children's clothing carried the letters A and N, which Thomas interpreted to referring to the word asshole and the N-word.
Asshole?
Yeah, and the signs were removed. There was flyers around that had like terms like porch monkey on them, and that was on the sheriff's bulletin board and stuff.
Yeah, that's not going to help your case.
Yeah.
Right.
No, that's racist.
There was kind of, just a lot of evidence of severe racism from the white people in this community, and they kind of have this thing where they need to now start negotiating because, now politicians are getting brought into it and stuff, and they don't want all this bloodshed and craziness. So now you have these things like the governor getting involved in shit. And so you have a higher up in the church and a higher up in the sheriff's, department trying to negotiate for the surrender of church people wanted for arrest that had actually committed crimes or had outstanding warrants and stuff like that. And you would have the fucking governor get involved, and the church members would be, served warrants on the premises, and then they would kind of go into hiding, and then sometimes people would just surround the cops and attack them, And this is really crazy because, like, you know, these are white cops in Arizona, like, and they wouldn't get what they want. They would have to flee the grounds and fuck off.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. So in 1981, things start turning against them because of like the insanely oppressive conditions. Apparently, if you're a part of this church, there's like 4 children die.
Oof.
Right.
What, for, like, just not sleeping?
Never a good sign. Meanwhile, Father Yod is he's
creating children, saving them, breathing life into them.
Yeah.
There was a 6-year-old named Theriel Drew who died of strangulated hernia after 4 days of agonized screaming.
Wait, 4-year-old with a hernia?
Yeah, and he might have survived if he had medical treatment, but they believed in faith healing. And the authorities were trying to place the other children in, state supervision, but the Arizona Court of Appeals ruled that there was sufficient reason to declare that the Drew children were protected by religious beliefs. So it's one of these things where the kids are doomed. Later, September 1981, sheriff's deputies get onto the church property and found a large and angry group of church members surrounding a pickup truck with 2 occupants. The crowd, estimated by the deputies to number over 50, were waving weapons, pipes, steel rebar, clubs, pistols, and rifles, and shouting threats at the truck's occupants. Now, keep in mind, they obviously could have got them, right? 50 people, all those weapons. Didn't take it. People in the truck were yelling racial epithets at the crowd. What are you doing? Just for survival's sake.
Asking for it.
Without even like bringing on the racism. Deputies go in to take care of the people in the truck. And one of the church members, a man named Sherman McCain, punched one of the deputies twice. More cops come. The pickup truck's allowed to get out with these 2 racist white idiots. And the county attorney issued an arrest warrant for Sherman McCain, and he was arrested on charges of assaulting an officer. He was also charged with carrying a concealed weapon, which was discovered at the time of his arrest. And on September 10th, 2 church members, William Thomas Jr., the son of Francis Thomas, and their de facto kind of ideological leader, and Dorothy Collins, they arrived at the Sierra Vista Sheriff's Substation, which was set up just to keep an eye on They didn't have a station.
The substation.
This was a house that was rented and created to be a cop station, so they could keep an eye on the black folks.
I've been to Sierra Vista. My great uncle used to live there.
Is that right?
It's right outside of Bisbee.
No kidding.
Are there any restaurants?
Home of Doug Stanhope.
Home of Doug Stanhope. That's exactly right. Great Italian restaurant, Roses. If you're ever in Bisbee, Roses. Try the veal.
So William Thomas Jr., the ideological leader and son of Francis Thomas, and Dorothy Collins, they arrive at the substation, informal cop shop, demanding to see McCain. Collins was arrested for carrying an illegal weapon.
Wait, well, there. They showed up.
She had like a fucking thing on her.
Please come into this room.
22 in her petticoat.
Now, on Highway 92, from Miracle Valley towards Sierra Vista, a van blew up.
Van's just
that was owned by William Thomas Jr., the son of Francis Thomas and the ideological leader of the Healing Center / church.
Okay.
Passenger and church member Stephen Lindsay was killed instantly when the bomb detonated because it was on his lap.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Not a good place for a bomb.
3 other passengers were injured, all of whom left the scene before the cops showed up.
Wait.
Some bomb.
So there was a bomb in a van driving down the highway.
A lot of explosives on this van.
Conceivably could have gone anywhere.
They're going to Sierra Vista
the highway leads to
apparently create a distraction bomb in the parking lot of the cop shop. And then while everybody's attending to that bomb, they go around and they blow out the wall and they free Sherman McCain.
Right, but the bomb
it was a rescue mission to blow him out of fucking prison.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it was really fucking ambitious, like really fucking wild.
Well, who made the bomb? Jesus? He's got holes in his hands.
TNT, he was a carpenter, not a bomb maker.
TNT was not illegal, right? So anybody can get TNT at that point, and that's what was going on. And so
Looney Tunes.
They found the undetonated bombs because there was almost 6 sticks of dynamite and batteries, fuses, wires, all this shit. I mean, it's amazing they all didn't die.
Yes.
One of the women said that when passenger Stephen Lindsay blew up, that she was regretful that she had been talking when the incident happened because she swallowed 2 mouthfuls of his gore.
Oh, God. Jesus Christ.
Of his gore.
Well, if there's one thing I regret from this mission.
You know
I couldn't
what?
keep my mouth shut.
Yeah, he was right.
He always
I couldn't
told me
keep
to
my
shut the
big
hell up.
mouth shut.
How is it 2 mouthfuls? Like,
And another thing.
I swear to God, it feels like I'm eating Steven. That can't be right. Oh, Jesus, I did.
Boom. Yeah.
2 mouthfuls of his gore. That was the exact phrasing, Aaron. You like that?
Oh, God.
She swallowed them.
Shut up.
Well, you know what?
And bits of sick.
She
Bits
swallows.
of sick.
She swallows. So Thomas is
She did not waste it.
Thomas is saying that it was all a fucking scheme by the ATF. Like that wasn't our van. Blah blah blah.
It was just my.
It was the king.
ATF goes onto the church property, finds all this dynamite, and they're fucking. Again, it's not illegal, so it's like fuck
Well,
you know.
use your dynamite back, put it in a safer place.
And they said they had the dynamite for a fucking mine. They have no mine. It's bullshit, you know. So yeah, then they're going after these kids, right? There's a bunch of kids that have been taken away by like a second marriage church member, and the first marriage husband is like, "Hey man, what the fuck? You left Mississippi with my kids. There's 4 of them.
Yeah.
Get them back." So they give them back, and this guy Triplet is the actual legal guardian, and they were fraudulently enrolled in the local school. It was all bullshit. And so they go to get these kids back, and they still get surrounded by church members, the cops. And very tense negotiations with Pastor Thomas, and the kids are released. And church students surround and violently attack the kids. Like, the kids are just as violent as the parents. Like, when it comes to the cops, they're fucking ready to fight the whole way. And it's crazy. In 1982, there's a clash between non-church members and church member kids, and the police arrest a church member for assaulting a female non-church bystander, and the students charged with felony assault. Next day, a group of 20 church members, including both students and William Thomas Jr., again, they enter the school grounds looking for the group of white students from the previous day's fight. And about 12 police and sheriff's deputies arrived, and they're trying to make an arrest. They're attacked by the church members, and one of the deputies gets knocked out, right?
By the kids or William Thomas, you think?
By the church members. And
That stuff. Wait, they showed up at a school to like beat up kids.
It's a religion of peace.
And now now they're fucking in a fight at the school, way off church grounds. William Thomas goes out, he blocks the police cars from coming in, while a group of students from the church carjack a car and steal it, and they're heading back to the fucking compound. 20-mile, 100-mile-per-hour chase, which ends in the compound, where a large group of the church members stop the cops from coming in. Right? And the cops are like, this is fucking bullshit. We got search warrants and all this. And they're looking for the 15 people that were involved in this scuffle in the high school, and they're going after them. And the Department of Public Safety and the church leaders are negotiating, trying to get it peaceably, like amicably resolved. And there's just a stalemate for a week.
Okay, so first thing, how long have they been there? How long has this new faction been there? Like 10
2 years.
2 years.
80 to 82, not even
Fucking
2 years.
Christ. Okay, and are they
Now, keep involved, the Mississippi folks started showing up in 78 with no incident until 80, right?
Now, are they wearing robes or like some sort of unique uniform? I just imagine being in high school and you see these like this.
It's not anything that crazy. So while this thing is going on, the media shows up with KOLD-TV, right?
There's a hottest thing in Arizona right there.
Yeah,
And they're from Tucson. They show up, and they show up to the compound, and a bunch of women come out.
Oh.
And they start seeing that they're filming on the grounds, right?
What happened?
And they have a bunch of claw hammers on them.
Oh,
Whoa.
my God.
And they start going after them and start throwing the hammers.
Jesus.
KOLD
This is fucking Mario?
has a fucking station wagon, and they start hightailing it. some of these cameramen
Just doesn't
have all of these. Thing is, there's another film crew behind them filming the women doing this. So this is when public sentiment starts turning against the
smart move. K-old.
And so you see all these women throwing hammers and going to fucking hurt these people badly with these claw hammers. And so now that's gone down, right? So now we have some public sentiment stuff on the television, and that's no good. So Governor Bruce Babbitt he comes down after the hammer throwing fiasco, and he gets Thomas to give the fugitives up. And 5 of them were charged, 3 were convicted, and sentenced to respectively 5 years for armed robbery, 3.5 years aggravated assault, 30 days for assaulting a law enforcement officer. So then there's other people. A couple of people have. There's 2 brothers, Billy Bernard, Frank Bernard, in 1982. They're served with warrants that were. Due to outstanding, it might have been bullshit, right? But now you got to imagine the bad feeling has just accrued so much in these communities that it's just you know how cops are.
Yeah.
Are we not men? We are cops, right? October 22nd, 1982, they arrive on the property to serve arrest warrants for these brothers. They were expecting it the night before the church, and so they kind of went to bed peacefully. And they show up at 7:30 in the morning, and then a couple, it's couple come out, and there's 20 church members around, and then suddenly it's 30, and then it's 40, and then a fucking they go and they have their backup away. They have 36 officers away, right? And they just want 2 deputies in 1 car to come and get these 2 guys.
What are they charged with?
I believe they had weapons charges.
Okay.
And they're like a
They also blew up a car.
No, these guys weren't that, but so the backup is a mile away, right? And so they go around and they're knocking on doors. There's no response, and they're looking for these people. And a car just comes up being with a bunch of angry dudes, angry church members, and they have pipes, and they're swinging a pipe in a deputy's face. The deputy calls her back up, and at first he's send a car, and he's send 2 cars, and he's send all the fucking cars, right? And because guns start appearing. And they have Winchester rifles, and they have revolvers, and they have a lot of weaponry.
Right, this
and
is the North
cops,
Hollywood bank shootout all over again.
The cops show up, and they take all these positions, and there's about 150 church members now involved, and you have about 36 cops, and there's kids, and the church would do this thing where they would have the women on the front line,
right? That's you can see
because all these. But these guys just weren't comfortable hitting women, right? And they have garden rakes, they've got pieces of timber, they have rocks, they got sticks, they got. But the guns are all kind of at the back, It's these guys were waiting for shit to jump off.
That's good formation, yeah.
And William Thomas Jr. shows up, and he's seen unloading a bunch of weapons from his car, right? And
excuse me, folks, I'll just
1 second. One neighbor and at least 1 deputy, both non-church members, witnessed long-barreled guns being aimed and firing at the deputies. Deputies reported multiple bullets whizzing past them. Now, all of this is going to come into conjecture later, right? After being attacked by multiple members, Deputy Ray Thatcher was confronted by William Thomas Jr. carrying a rifle. And it was the Winchester. And he's a SWAT guy. And he's got a Mini 14, on his hip. And according to him, he's I just see Thomas Jr. coming at me, dead-eyed, pointing at me, cocked. And he's I just went bam, 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 bam. Right in his chest.
Oh, fuck.
And he goes, then, and almost without hesitation, his father-in-law comes, scoops the gun up, comes at me with just this dead-eyed stare. And I go, 1, 2, 3, 4, light him up. And these people that are killed in the melee. But now the other things that was happening is that this fight was it was a fucking everybody was kung fu fighting, dude. It would be a bunch of minor skirmishes all over. One guy comes out with nunchucks. And one of the cops is just like, he's like, oh man, this guy, I don't want to fuck with nunchucks, and he just like runs away, and then they both just went and fought other people. Yeah, like there's all these minor like incursions of like
it's your classic large fight, how it used to be, you know.
One cop, he gets fucking like whacked over the head with a board, and he dies like months later because of injuries from just getting hit with like lumber.
Yeah, it's a Hell in a Cell battle royal,
straight up, you know. So this guy Thatcher, he said that these guys just came right at him with the thing, and with the Winchester rifle, and then later all the evidence would be like, oh,
didn't they? Yeah. Okay. It just takes one happy finger.
And also the Winchester rifle was never found. They said some woman came and scooped it up.
Convenient.
So yeah, multiple deputies received compound bone fractures, shattered knuckles, deep lacerations from broken glass, wounds from shotgun pellets. There was a lot of buckshot going around. 2 church members were killed. The 2 guys I told you about. 5 deputies and 2 church members were hospitalized. Deputy Rookie Officer Jeffrey C. Brown would later die of injuries sustained that day. He's the one that hit with the wood.
Oh my God.
One of the injured church members was paraplegic when a bullet fired by another church member hit him. He caught friendly fire.
He became paraplegic.
Yeah, later on.
Spinal.
So, it went on 15 minutes before the cops retreated from the compound.
I mean, so, I think, stories like this, it makes me mad that these, cults like this, or your North Hollywood bank shootout, or your David Koresh type of stuff, because it
shows how to check the cops, but it's done by jerk-offs.
Yeah. Well, then the cops, they get military surplus.
Yeah.
So we all have to deal with the overflow.
Now we all got to deal with cops with fucking APCs and bazookas and 50 cal machine guns because these guys step to them in a certain way. But also, you're like, shouldn't you step to that?
But it also shows this thing that
it's escalation.
So it is. But here's the thing, right? Is that there's so Dodger put me onto this when I was home, right? And my buddy Dodger,
Fucking Dodger. Shout out to Dodger.
Dodger's a gun owner, and Dodger's also not a fucking like right wing psycho or whatever, but whatever, he likes guns and stuff.
Hey, shout out to Dodger.
But he said he found that out from one of these in range videos, at the channel on YouTube.
What?
It's a bunch of like whatever. They're like, I guess, kind of gun nuts, whatever. But they do this. The guy does this very 12-minute video about the Miracle Valley Shootout, and it's really fair. He talks about this guy that started this church didn't even want this mistrust. He goes, he does like long-term lessons at the end of it, and he goes we have to fucking get along. We have to not have this divisiveness in our community. It's not exactly the kind of thing that you expect to find from a pro-gun YouTube channel.
Right.
And one of the things he says
I like that though.
Also, gun nuts can be just as much cops as anti-cops, right?
There are gun nuts on both sides of the fucking line.
Exactly,
the
right?
Bundy Ranch and shit.
So he also talks about how much it was a smart, a smart kind of move on the behalf of the cops to not draw weapons and to keep it a fist fight. The only person that did it was this one SWAT guy that then kind of was in trouble for the rest of his life, but he's like, everybody else was just like, we are 30 cops. They are 150 churchgoers.
If we pull guns, they pull out more.
Yeah, what do we do?
Right.
We're going to kill 2-3 people, and then they tear us apart.
Yeah.
So he was saying it is kind of like an impressive show of restraint, but also just a smart show of restraint.
Yeah, because you pull one. Now 150 people pull one.
Yeah, and this guy maybe with the mini, having a tiny machine gun was the one that probably looked like, all right, now the Terminator's here.
Yeah.
But if it's just a regular deputy with a fucking revolver, it's like,
well, you're not outgunned if you don't pull guns.
Yeah, and it's just amazing though how that I
could beat up a church member any day. That's what they're thinking.
But think about it, also this church was like, okay, here's 2 white guys in a pickup, surrounded by 50 of us, shouting the N-word out the window, and we're not taking them apart, and we could.
Yeah.
You know, we could tip that fucking truck right over, right? So they don't do that. So it's also restraint being shown. Like, let's be real, you know. So some of these church members were arrested during, and others were, you know, kind of later taken in by photograph evidence. And there was eventually charges laid against 19 church members for the part in the shootout. It was prosecuted in neighboring Pima County to avoid the local, you know, kind of hoopla.
Well, again, they're going to pick 12 people out of the Cochise County. It's going to be all church members.
In February 1984, charges were dropped due to Cochise County refusing to pay legal aid defense to the indigent defendants, claiming insufficient funds in the budget.
So they didn't offer them a lawyer?
So they wouldn't give them public defense, so all charges were dropped. The judge ruled dismissal with prejudice, meaning the defendants could not face the same charges in the future.
No shit.
Yeah. So there's a lot of people in the public, even after that Clawhammer video, being like, I bet these fucking cops were kind of being assholes to these people because it's a sudden influx of 300 black people.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, the forensic results from Tate and Thomas, his father-in-law, and you know the bishop, quote unquote bishop. He was called the Bishop Thomas. Forensic analysis and expert testimony presented during the trial indicated the fatal shots all struck the victims from the side or the rear, and then it was not possible to conclude from which direction the other non-fatal shots were fired or which order they were fired.
And that Epstein didn't kill himself.
The same forensic expert testified that the forensic evidence scientifically repudiates Thatcher's accounts, the cop that shot the weapon. Sheriff's deputies have claimed to see a woman retrieving the rifle and carrying it away. Who's this rifle fairy? Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
The church claimed the victims were unarmed, and attorneys for the church claimed the lie detector tests on the witnesses showed they were truthful in claiming the witness were shot in the back by the deputy.
Wow.
Attorneys for the church. Let's not say that the polygraph came out. Right.
Still, though.
Thatcher, the cop that shot them, his actions were ruled justified by the county state. In 1982, late 82, Jesse Jackson comes down and he goes,
the Rainbow Coalition.
Yeah, he does a Miracle Valley mission after the shooting, and he says these guys were shot in the back. He said he gave the government 400 photographs of the shooting incident taken by a news photographer. Later on, in the late 80s, a bunch of people sued Frances Thomas for $2 million, saying she put the land in her own name, not the church's name.
We died for you.
Right. And in spring of 83, Frances Thomas says, we're all going back to Chicago. In 89, they tried to go to the suburban Markham, Illinois, before moving to Harvey, Illinois. Frances Thomas dies in 1985. The church continues to operate to this day under the leadership of two of her daughters.
And the name of the church is still?
The name of the church is still Christ Miracle Healing Center and Church.
Huh. And it's in Illinois.
That's correct.
You know, it's
just
not much has changed, right?
But it is
other than the weapons.
But Arizona, Sheriff Arpaio, right? We're talking about.
Who was sentenced to jail and was pardoned by Trump,
right?
Fuck,
and Cochise County.
He probably came up around
super
that time.
close to the border.
Oh yeah, it's right. Nogales is right across.
Yeah.
It's
So
right there.
this is a pretty heavily intolerant community. It is amazing that the influence of the church still didn't kind of,
maybe they didn't want to.
The intolerance in that part of the area would perhaps be from people hopping the border, but
no,
really...
you move there because where you live, you can't.
Yeah, it's
intolerance to Mexicans, not black people. But also,
that's what I'm getting at. But then when black people show up, it's like, there's a new person for us to hate.
Let's be real.
Anybody not white.
Anybody who's not from there is what they're going to be intolerant.
Well, from there means white.
White.
But
they were
the Mississippi people showed up, it wasn't a problem.
Yeah.
Well, but
because they have far much more in common with other country people. How long were they
there before it wasn't a problem?
2 years.
But then it was 2 years.
But also maybe not so many of them, right?
Yeah, it's a there goes the neighborhood thing.
Right. But
it
also
was fine with...
Well, there's not that many of them. They're not really...
all, they're all like us.
They buy coffee.
Then you get these fancy city blacks around.
Well, it's
jazz.
It's like one of those things where Here's the difference with country and city, in my opinion, and the reason why the divide is so long lasting and ever present, no matter what century we're in.
Mm-hmm.
If nothing is going on in my town, and you show up to the general store, and I'm on the porch, it doesn't matter what race I am, and I don't feel like you handle the greeting or manners so properly because you are minding your own business, used to minding your own business. You came up in a city. Minding your own business was part of how to survive.
Right, we were talking about this earlier.
You know, this thing of like, you see the wrong thing happen, you could die over it. It's imperative to mind your own business to the point that people don't even see that there's a pregnant woman waiting for a seat on the train.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's so imperative to mind your own business. Now you go down south with that, and it's like, well, I see you're too good for me, right?
Right.
Black or white, whatever, like I'm saying, you know. And then it's just that thing of inferiority complex. And
then on the other side, there is, the ignorance to cultural custom.
Yeah.
On the city side.
Right.
So both sides are at fault.
Absolutely both sides are at fault.
Yeah.
Absolutely both sides are at fault. You should show up and say nice.
Yes.
You should show up.
When in Cochise.
I remember when I moved to Ireland, and I would be like on like a fucking like a tiny like little road, and there'd be like a lone woman coming the opposite way on the opposite side of the street, and she'd go, "How are you?" And I was like, "Huh? Fuck, you're saying hi to me?
Right.
I'm a stranger."
It's confusing.
Passing
at
people
first,
on the street, like, but that's.
Well, the idea of making eye contact with someone as you walk past them.
Right, yeah, and there's this thing that, like, as fucked up as we know the South is, they have it in their head that they are actually the salt of the earth, good people, and the people coming down from the north are the no manners fucking wrecks that are come and ruin everything, right?
And they're both wrong.
And they're totally both wrong.
And they're both right.
And they're both right.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, that's the fucked up
yes,
part.
you should be nice.
Yes.
And also...
Mind your own fucking business.
Right, exactly, right.
Yeah.
So... Yeah, it's just
a culture class, and that's like it's a perfect microcosm for like politics in the country because the politics is rural versus urban.
Yeah,
and
the funny thing is that I don't think country people know that you see both when you go to a city because there's country people in the city.
In Chicago,
you know what I mean?
People are handing. When I would ride the fucking train or the bus, people would give their seats away. It wasn't they. There was always somebody. Most people didn't, but there was always one person who would.
And you should.
Yeah,
you should. You should absolutely.
You take the best part of both shitty cultures.
Yeah.
They're both shitty. Take the best parts and make your own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Open the door for people. Mm-hmm. Guy, whatever.
Yeah. Right.
Hold the door.
Hold the door open.
Yeah. Yes. Hold the door for somebody.
You got there first.
Yeah.
Hey,
hold the door open.
How are you? You don't even have to wait for an answer. Hey, how are you?
Mm-hmm.
Keep
yeah,
walking.
yeah. And then the thing is too is that then that fucking southern thing goes into fucking like
but also
lingering too long on a woman and
boy,
being
how are you?
Too extensively complimentary to a lady.
Did Emmett Till whistle?
I'm just being nice.
Did this 12-year-old whistle?
Now you're just hitting on somebody.
Yeah, there's a language and it's all perverted often to serve whatever you need it to
and the thing is that like everybody in this fucking story is an asshole because obviously this woman is beating people on the head.
They're cops in their church.
She's torturing children. And it's such a shame, right? Because it's one of those things where you go like, fuck, man, this is like would be like if you guys were just like a couple of cool Marxists or something.
You could just hang out in Arizona forever.
You would have just this great thing about being like, let me tell you what happened when we went to a small town with 300 black people. Whatever we said, right? And that would just be such a great lesson if you didn't have a child die of a strangulated hernia, and beat people on the head for falling asleep during how many hour church service? How long can you serve church? Like you're fucking up.
Yeah, Jesus slept.
It's that thing of these good moments where you're like, if that was just fucking handled the right way, god damn, like the Symbionese Liberation Army. It's like they're like, we're gonna kill Patty Hearst, bring a shitload of food to the ghetto right now, and then they're like, oh, we'll do it, and then they do it.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, you find out it's like one of these things where it's like, the fucking ideology is all fucked up and it's all white kids and one black guy. And you're like, God damn it, why can't this be the Black Panthers? You know what I mean? Like,
and then Patty Hearst is cool with it.
And then she's not because I was brainwashed. I'm not Tanya.
This indie band sucks.
They sold out. And then they find out they're Sibian refugees.
What? Oh, God. Yeah, the worst. Correct.
Wait, I thought they were good.
They're all shook
no, they're
up.
bad? God, I don't even know anymore.
But yeah,
They got a fucking buzz.
isn't that a great story, though?
It's really great. It's
I've
sad
heard of
that nothing
AA.
changes.
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, how about this?
They're shooting people's eyes out in fucking...
In Chile, right?
Chile.
now, yeah. Well,
With
It's
BBs.
It's fucking... I mean, 2 people to 1 cop? Black people?
yeah.
In the 80s, early 80s? Not a bad ratio. If we're taking a final tally,
yeah.
they pretty much won.
Yeah.
And they left or whatever because obviously the heat then is way too fucking high. That's not going
I mean,
anywhere.
were we doing Koresh, like, federal things at that point?
That was like probably 10 years later, right?
The
Well, yeah, it was,
the
but-
FBI came after, but it was more of a thing where it was like, yeah, like I said, like the governor's involved, and it's one of those things where it's like, okay, well, we don't want a fucking problem, it's a lot more supervised, Yeah, Koresh is fucking, Texas, and it's again, it all got more militarized, right? So you could have Janet Reno wheeling some fucking tanks in there. Back then, it was still like, you have enough of a militia, white or black, it doesn't matter, man.
Well, I mean, that's how so much of America has presented itself as, we took all this land from the Indians. Now you can just go out there and do whatever you want.
Yeah.
And then you do that, and
and
then
then
a
they're
kid
like,
dies.
wait a minute.
Yeah, show of force and say no. And then now it's obviously much more so a white man's game, like the Bundy thing and stuff, which I don't even know what he was mad at. Estate land.
yeah.
Bundy had been raising his fucking cattle
On
federal
federal
land
Not paying taxes on it.
for decades and not paying taxes on it. And
They're
then,
lucky they didn't get eviscerated.
Yeah.
Because
But they
Koresh did.
because they're white.
Koresh did.
Yeah.
They fucking
They did, they didn't
Koresh
because
did.
it was politically
Yeah.
insolvent.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's an aberration that they didn't, and part of the reason is because they were white, and there was national coverage from the get go.
And it was
There was national coverage on Koresh. I mean, fucking Bill Hicks went down with a camcorder, and that's it.
Yeah, yeah.
But-
But also, I mean, it was following Ruby Ridge, which
Also, exactly. So
halfway fucked up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
meanwhile, they're like, no, none of those are connected to Wounded Knee. And you're like, well, that was...
1,500 miles away and 180 years ago.
But it is, the whole thing is just like, it's I don't know if I've said on the show before, but it's just like so much this continuation of like, we're going to keep this land because
We stole it
from other people. So
Yeah.
we're certainly not gonna have it stolen by the fucking U.S. government. That type of shit.
They paid for the roads that got it.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
stole the land so you could steal it from them.
Yeah,
fuck, it's just-
apparently one of these deputies said that Francis Thomas, the fanatical leader, said, "You're gonna think Jonestown was a picnic. We got the Kool-Aid ready to go." Like,
Jesus Christ.
but
Well, I mean,
That's real Kool-Aid, not that Costco
Yeah, I mean,
off-brand
that's
shit.
that's
Jonestown was a bad
That's
picnic.
according to a deputy too.
Right.
So this is the thing: is that like these guys making like these racist street signs and all this shit. It's like for the first time they got fucking checked.
Yeah.
And they got checked in like a white isolated area, and it was like one of those things where it's like, we have 150 people and you have 36 cops, and do you want to die or do you want to call the governor and call a truce? And they called a truce like every fucking time, man.
Right. Which is not bad.
No, that's what it fucking should be.
It should be. It should be. Absolutely.
That's what it should be.
And now we got
and that's,
fucking-
I mean, that's that is the that's the fairy tale of the Second Amendment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's how you hope it would work, right? Like if it ever came down to like an oppressive regime on people, is that there's more of us than there is of them.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing too, right? Is if the bullets were whizzing by, how much of it was fuck off, and how much of it was we're trying to kill you?
Well, even the one death from the Bundy thing
'Cause
was
you're
a
telling
guy who stormed out of a car, pointing his gun at the FBI.
Yeah, a fucking idiot.
He wouldn't have died if
Yeah,
he didn't
right.
decide he wanted to become some shit martyr.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's dirty. It's all very, very sloppy.
Yeah.
Because when you have a bunch of people, one person's going to be sloppy on either side.
And just
yeah,
the
especially
thing
those
of
weapons.
if you're the best meaning person in that neighborhood, right? And you're like, man, my fucking kid goes to school with these kids, and like they're being abused, and they can't get medical help when they need it.
Yeah.
And that fucking sucks.
And who do you go to?
And who do you go to
when the cops are making fucking
Racist sign? They're making shit
asshole-
signs.
Right.
people
And,
signs.
and then, in direct conflict, they just make concessions and flee the scene.
Right.
Escape with their tails between their legs.
Right.
And then it's just like, man, fucking, it sucks,
there's
man.
nothing. What do you do?
What do you do?
Well, there's you don't have
nothing
there's no outlet for that.
Yeah.
Other than you slowly work your way up through the city government and become a force for nature.
Farm,
Yeah.
Or you become a mass vigilante.
Right. What do you think
Watchmen.
about that thing, though, where they
Watchmen.
say, like, okay, Waco or this thing? Doesn't matter, right?
Wait, what?
What do you
Waco
Yeah.
Okay.
or the Christ Healing Church Center, whatever.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Kids are being abused.
And what do you do?
Is it all right to do anything?
Who's us?
Who's us?
I mean,
The government.
Right. I think
The people.
I think the the idea of the government being us has been perverted.
Sure.
So
but let's say
it's not that. It is not that anymore.
no.
It's an institution. It's not. Really,
It's also a threatened, power hungry.
but that's the toughest line you're
on the
drawing.
rope, and it's on the back ropes, and it knows it is. That's why it's becoming more hyper militarized. That's why it's a caged animal.
But
And
do you think?
So what do you do if you?
Do you think the citizen is like, oh, we should have the right? Because
To force your way in and
because it
and
is
take the kid out.
it's the manufacturing consent, right? From Chomsky.
Mm-hmm.
You say the baby was thrown out of the incubator, and it was
they're
done
gonna
by
kill that poor woman.
They're gonna kill that poor woman. So now,
What do you do?
what do you do? In my opinion, if that's the fucking crew, that's the crew you're in, man. I don't know.
What do you mean?
But the
I
kid,
just think like maybe
but the kid didn't choose.
What do you
the
mean?
kid didn't choose it. I'm saying like that's fucking how they do it. I don't know.
Live and let live.
But that's not
I'm
living.
not judging. I'm clarifying your position.
I'm saying, don't bring a Starbucks to Afghanistan.
They're not ready for
Let
it.
the women and children be like, you know what? Fuck this one dude that abuses us all the time, and let's fucking kill him.
Right.
You got to have your own revolution,
Right,
Yeah.
that- I mean,
in
that's-
whatever society you're in. In
that-
my opinion,
That's fair, but
no
Afghanistan.
external revolution, because external revolution.
Are never external. They're never revolutions.
no, they're colonialism.
and
Yes.
they're never
Yes,
external.
it's colonial.
It's colonialism.
That's exactly
It's
right.
empire.
That's exactly
Yeah.
right, John.
Do you think we really give a fuck about the women of Afghanistan?
No,
Absolutely not.
I do
Like, oh,
because
this
I'm
poor-
a humanitarian.
Well,
of
'cause
course.
they're hot as
And
fuck.
they're hot as
and you're a nice
underneath
guy.
that shit.
Yeah. I mean,
Forget about that one on Time Magazine or
Oh
whatever.
my God! Well, that was National Geographic. She looks like shit now.
Yeah, maybe to you, bro.
Not a lot of sunscreen over there. Hard
She's
life.
coming to a prom, in my opinion.
Oh Jesus Christ! No, I think you're right. It's never.
Actually, in 10 years, she'll really be in her prime. Oh, Matt's so disgusted. Oh
Should
my
be
god.
a prime number, 91. check my math on that. Pretty sure 91's prime number.
Yeah.
No, I think you're right. I mean, but is that the cruel calculus that we have to perform? Is that let them self-regulate because that's just how it is?
And
But
you can't.
You can't do it because
can't-
then you come in and you don't see you're not seen as liberators. You're seen as
You as a foreign, you will unite the oppressed with the oppressor.
yes.
In my opinion.
They will only the only
Matt,
you
Take it away.
you moved into a state of the United States. You don't get to decide what happens in the state of the United States that you moved into.
but if you're okay, so you're on one of these goddamn Mormon grounds, right? And it's it's really sketchy.
one of these goddamn Mormon grounds.
One of these goddamn Mormon
Well,
grounds.
he damned most of them.
Right?
You mean like a compound or something?
Compound, right? And you're like, man, fuck this. Like, all the dudes get kicked out the minute they're.
I mean, how is that different from fucking Bundy taking over a ranch? It's the same idea.
No, what I'm saying is, it's up to the fucking Mormons to be like, yo, fuck these dudes. You can't have the minute you have the U.S. government come in there, they don't know shit. They don't know the people.
I'm not saying it's the best option, but you're still on. I mean, at the end of the day, we're still all on Indian land. We should just ask the Indians what to do.
Yeah.
But because we've pushed them all out of it, you're on government land. All of it is government land.
Right, but then is it state? Is it state or federal?
It's federal.
Is it?
It is until it isn't. I mean,
but isn't that not what the country was founded on?
Well, let's not get.
I mean, we can go. The country was founded on a fucking rich white man.
Let's not get into the minutia of it. I'm saying on strictly moral grounds, but not strictly moral, strategic grounds.
If a child is dying and no one will help them, I mean, are you Batman? Are you not Batman? Someone should help them.
Are you Batman or are you the Punisher?
The child didn't choose. Do you save the life of the child? Or do you let the child die to prove the point that they...
the customs of the area are going to come back in. You're not going to take the child to Des Moines. You're going to leave the child there and kill two of the dudes that you say are bad guys.
Right. I think what John is saying, is it counterproductive in the long run?
And I would say yes.
Because if you show up there with, stormtrooper outfit, AK, whatever.
But I mean, do you
does
have
that not just embolden?
Yeah, I mean, sure it does. But do you have to? Is that?
That seems to be the pattern.
It seems to be apparently the authorities seem it's the only option.
No, without threat is obviously the best option. I mean, be a neighboring fucking church.
The best option is you pull up a trailer and you said, we're going to keep the kid in this trailer and treat him for the fucking thing you don't believe in.
Kindness is the fucking thing, right?
But this country was not founded on that.
No,
so we don't work in that.
But your homeboy was saying it's all about teaching animals with kindness, right?
Right.
Now,
the horse whisperer?
Yes.
Yeah. But
William Key, shout out to my friend.
Right? If it wasn't the government, if it was us concerned people that have a different...
Well, it's the same idea if you walk down the street and you make eye contact and you say hi to somebody.
But it's hard to shake traditions and cultures and all that type of shit.
Absolutely.
Especially
if you force it on them, I think they're going to buck really hardcore.
Well, the biggest problem is... The biggest problem is the cultural difference in what is right. So this whole church moves down there and they say, this is how we treat the kids, and the kids are dying, and we treat them our own way.
People are stopped going to this church with dead babies that were going to be resurrected by.
What? So, you left that out?
Yeah. That was people.
Like they're in their fucking wagon?
They're dead. They have
they're in a station wagon?
Stillborn baby.
Well, we're just taking Junior to get woke up.
People would have adults die and be trying to take it back to Francis Thomas for resurrection.
And there is, it's not analogous to us telling the Indian children that they have to go to American schools and that their way of healing doesn't work.
Of course.
It's not analogous. But there is a thread there that says, well, we did this to them. We can continue to do this in other ways. Now, the church that moved down there was not there for thousands of years like an Indian tribe was. It was not there. It does not have the history of this own self-dealing. Mm-hmm. The church that moved down there wasn't a church of American citizens that moved down there, not a church. Mm-hmm. Now, if an Indian tribe said, well, this is how we deal with it, I feel like that would be different.
Sure.
But a bunch of Americans move to an American state and then treat children like shit. Then
they're fair game for intervention.
Exactly. But if you were just like on the periphery of that place and you were just like, we are sheer good Samaritans, and like if you have a problem in your fucking compound situation, you can come here for safety.
Right.
That would be a far better outreach than just smacking them down and being like,
well, of course, because cops don't. There's no small measures.
There's no nuance.
There's no half measures.
And also, man, like if you talk to a lot of abused people, they'd be like, yeah, fucking, my dad fucking molests me. He's my dad.
Yeah.
Right.
And
don't kill him.
And this is the only community I know.
Yeah.
It's hard to leave.
Yeah, and it's like one of those things where you go like, man, do I know that it's fucked up? I know better than anybody it's fucked up I'm molested. But it's not the full picture. So like, it's one of those things where you go like, yeah, sure, fucking this, pray the pain away, pray the fucking hernia away. Obviously, it ended up in those kids dying, but also like these people are good intentioned. They feel isolated. They feel outnumbered. They feel like they're targeted. And
you can find examples of flaws in a system, or flaws in a culture, in any culture. So let's say this culture, the name of the Christ Church, whatever.
Right.
What kind of good were they doing? And is the remainder on that equation dead kids? What's the remainder on our equation?
Also dead kids, but
tons of dead kids.
Different countries. But
old people homeless people on the streets, man. I mean, like, there's always going to be a remainder of the equation,
right?
And it's really just about like what what becomes tolerable.
What you're willing to just take in the
what do you how many fucking homeless people did you step over this week?
Sure, yeah.
And would somebody else from another culture see that and go, what the fuck, we gotta step in?
Yeah,
you don't do that, right?
It's something you were saying was like made me think about this idea of something I don't know anything about, and I guess I could find out a lot about, which is like, what would the native version of justice be? With like somebody that had done something really wrong? A lot of times they treat the perpetrator as the victim. If you're talking about Native Americans, the
perpetrator is the victim
because he hurt himself. He hurt his soul.
Mm-hmm. And what caused him to do that?
What would you do that for?
Yeah, and the physical wounds heal.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Read the book Tribe by Sebastian Junger. It's a short book. It's one of the best books I've ever read, and it's about so many things: culture, coming home from war, how we treat veterans, like why we're so alone, why we have mass shooters. It's a very short, wonderful book. It's the same guy that did Restrepo, the documentary.
Younger's
Sebastian Junger.
He's kind of like, he did Perfect Storm.
Perfect Storm, Restrepo.
He did so many good books.
And Tribe. And Tribe is the one where he talks about specifically that.
Yeah.
And they treat
the criminal justice in the kind of tribal communities,
or any other more progressed culture.
Yeah, it's not every tribe.
It's about rehabilitation and not punishment.
But actual rehabilitation. Actual rehabilitation.
Yes.
And not just because we do come from a much more fire and brimstone culture.
Yeah, punitive.
And it is like, forever is forever.
Yeah. Is solitary confinement rehabilitation, or is that just
sheer torture?
Punishment.
Sheer torture. Absolutely.
We live in a society right now where, I have a joke about it, but Rick Perry used to brag that he executed 300 people.
Yeah.
And you go, wait, why are you bragging about executing people?
Yeah.
That
especially when you have an imperfect justice system.
Wouldn't you brag about, I helped 300 people see the error of their ways?
I know.
And we learned what made these type of people. These people don't come out of a vacuum. We create them.
Yeah. They wouldn't have done this unless we set up this whole
Number one thing my dad was saying about Ted Bundy. It was like,
he didn't come out of nowhere.
My dad was like, biggest mistake they ever made, killing this guy.
Absolutely.
Just if he didn't,
even the judge said it.
Just even if he just didn't end up in Florida, man, it would just be like, it's like because like
end of story.
It could have just
Jesus Christ
could have just gone on and on and on and been like, a guy like so much smarter and able to tell you how to get.
Oh, that was Ed Kemper. Like,
a lot of them are dumber, right? There's a lot of dumb serial killers and stuff like that. So it's like,
but guys like Ted Bundy and Ed Kemper were able to, articulate what made them tick.
Yeah,
and to a degree, Charles Manson too, but he was a little more off the rails.
Yeah, but he was making more social justice.
These people didn't come out of nowhere. We grew them out of the soil of our culture.
Yeah.
And yes, they had, illnesses, but that's part of it too.
Oh, and now, Aaron, it's time for you to follow up on the SPK episode with the thing you didn't say on the fucking air.
Yeah, and that comes into the native thing that we were talking about too. You're talking about the SPK, the Socialist Patients Collective in Germany, and
Wolfgang Huber,
who we can't find anything about.
2 episodes ago. something
two
like
or
that?
two or three episodes ago. Check it out. Wonderful episode. A college in Heidelberg.
Yeah.
Heidelberg, Germany. Taking the mentally ill patients, teaching them how to make bombs.
Yeah.
And part of Huber's thesis was
Society is ill.
society is the illness.
You are not.
You are not ill.
Capitalist society will just subject everybody to innumerable ills, and you're trying to find your way to get through it is futile, and also going to make you ill because you know
Make you
it's
worse.
futile.
Yeah. And we were talking about, right after the episode ended, I was like, I read this thing about, across culture, across time, specifically paranoid schizophrenia, it's always 1%.
Yeah.
There's,
Anywhere you are in the world.
Anywhere you are in the world, it's 1%. Just it's a genetic thing in the human race, and it may be an adaptation.
And
it may be selected for it. To have a certain. There may be a benefit to the culture to have a certain a percentage of the population to have this.
Yeah. I know this one guy that says.
But the schizophrenia, there's shit. We all have shades of it. Smoke some weed sometime when you're alone. And,
that's what,
right?
when psychedelics first came out, they called them psychomimetics because it allowed the doctor to feel what it was like to be crazy.
Right.
Really?
Yeah, that was one of the things they want to call them. Then they called them entheogens, and they called them hallucinogens. Now they call them empathic. There's a million different names, but one of them was psychomimetics, and that was the big thing with LSD was that it allowed psychotherapists to experience psychosis.
The voices were.
So. But what I was getting at with this schizophrenia thing is that in Western cultures, those voices are scary, paranoid,
right.
telling you that people are watching you, they're out to get you. Fearful, angry, competitive, just negative. But in traditional cultures or indigenous cultures, those voices are often funny or helpful.
Historical.
Positive.
They're seen as ancestors, yet they're conversely positive.
Old stories.
Yeah. And I think that's just
what a difference that
that's
would
just
make
a perfect
in just so many things.
If you want to know, if you want to just get like just a real easy metaphor for that, or metaphor for why maybe Huber was right in a way.
Oh yeah.
Is what do the voices in your head say?
It's so fucking true, man.
And then you extrapolate that to how we treat those people. Do you take those people who are talking with voices or hearing voices, do you lock them in cages and dope them up? Or do you just listen to what they have to say?
Yeah, I mean, there's this thing about, fucking...
leftovers. When the voices stop?
Talk it out,
when I started doing what they told me to do.
Talk it out. It's like the thing of,
Those people end up being shamans.
Things like I talked to my cousin when he talked to me fucking off his meds and he'd just been hospitalized, and he would tell me this insane Jason Bourne level conspiracy of prophecies that came true and all of these things, this vast paranoid conspiracy surrounding him. And I was like, man, fuck, if I believed this and I was in his position, I'd be absolutely scared out of my mind. But also there's a part of me that's tell me the rest of the story. I'm like,
write this down.
Yeah, just let's hear it. Let's just chase this thread down. Where's this coming from? What's going on? And obviously there can be just sheer just mental.
Well, yeah, because
delusion stuff. But also
at worst, if you have somebody kind of pull on that thread, they'll talk themselves in a circle, and it'll just be oh, it doesn't make sense.
Right. But
and then what?
But it is weird that a culture, especially of ours in America, is so obsessed with superheroes. We meet people who have the ability to be more than a basic human.
And we lock them up in cages.
And I think this is something that occurred to me a long time ago when I just heard about the idea of two-spirit and the American Indian idea of a two-spirit. Someone born with male and female genitalia was not discarded, was not shamed. They were someone who was regarded as someone who had some idea that beyond the regular, and you go, wait, why did we not? Why did white folks?
I have both?
Why did white folks not embrace the idea of someone who was different, who had these things that is not normal, but at the same time is kind of amazing.
Yeah, those people are, they're, I mean, in Eastern religions like Hinduism and stuff, there's always been like a duosexual god.
Right.
There's always a deity that's both genders.
Right. I mean, isn't Ganesh that isn't?
Yeah.
They're fluid in so many ways.
Yeah. You can even extrapolate it to not extrapolate, but you can, if you wanted to even get into the science of it. There is a adaptive benefit to what you would call like let's say a feminine male, like a homosexuality, but the men would have like a very feminine demeanor, because those men would stay back with the women when men were going hunting or out or otherwise leaving the tribe, so that women would have a physically stronger male in their presence to protect them, but not be sexually competitive with the other male. So there's not any risk of that male procreating with any of the women, but would be there to protect them if there was something to happen.
Well, it's the thing of like, if you're like back in the fucking village, right? If you're back in the fucking jungle, everybody has their role. And that role isn't assigned. No, it becomes self-evident.
Yes, it is.
And it's like...
It's water finding its own level.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where you go like... I mean... in our society, we go like, oh, you're not going to come fight? You're a fucking faggot or whatever.
Well, in our society, it was the guy who didn't go to World War II was going to fuck your wife while you were out there fighting. That's what happened in America.
But instead, it's like one of those things where he goes like, I got to go fight. This really sucks real bad. This guy's at least going to take care of my wife. And then, like, if fucking I fail, he'll be like the last line of defense to, my wife.
Yeah.
And like, that's just noble enough. Everything is noble.
That was my understanding of why, like, the whole like keys in a bowl and swinger culture with pilots. I think we maybe talked about it on the show, or I've talked about it with you guys before. Was that before missions, pilots would have parties with all their wingmen and men in not platoon but their wing, and they'd throw the keys in a bowl and they'd all fuck each other's wives, and that they knew that if they died, there would be someone back home who would care and love for their wife as much as they did.
Right.
Whoa. If they never came back.
Wow. I think you mentioned that on Radio 8 Ball.
That might have been Radio 8 Ball, yeah. It could be apocryphal or whatever, but I mean, it's still like it's true enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
caring.
But we get like, we get super possessive, and there's just, we live in communities that are bigger than 150 people. So, people just become a statistic after that.
Yeah.
And it's
but
not
in
personal.
those communities, like, it was happening in fucking Miracle Valley, it was like, you had that go back to the village raises the child, even if it's in a fucked up cult.
Right.
And then you're like feeling like, fuck, man, this is like a fucked up racist thing based on a guy's church that was super anti-racist, and like just like no, just like we're gonna say no. And they should have been helped out of all their fucked up shit, but they were just surrounded by a bunch of racist dickheads.
Yeah,
so the kids can't get saved, and then it becomes all about what the cops can get away with and who controls the area or whatever, instead of just being like, all right, yo, you fucking guys, like, you're kind of a whack-ass cult. You're kind of fucking these kids up really bad, and like... It just gets all spoiled by a bunch of people dropping N-bombs and
you can't have fair justice or just justice when the people administering it are deeply flawed.
Right.
Yeah.
There's too much power for people to meter out.
And to the point that federal judges in the 80s go like, oh yeah, these shitheads are racist around here. Yeah. Like, they never had a fair shot.
How are you going to get a fair job when the people offering the jobs are your oppressors?
Yeah.
How are you going? How do you trust that your kid's going to be okay in the hospital?
Yeah.
When the people running the hospital are your oppressors.
How are you going to? If you're a kid, you're fucked on either side.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, you're fucked.
But as an adult, you go, these people have been fucking us forever. Why would I?
Yeah.
Why would I give
Yeah.
them my kid?
Yeah.
And a lot of that was so A.A. Allen was like the one that was like he brought in like a really charismatic like choir guy, and that was like, you know, black music was like
All right, folks, we're gonna play the jams.
We're gonna keep these kids up for 3 days. Isn't that great?
it was a thing where it was just like that would be the thing that would bring in black people. Is
Yeah.
that like the whole music section was just like the really charismatic choir leader and that was all it really took, man.
Hey,
and
brings
like,
in white people too.
I mean, James Earl Jones was great in the Blues Brothers. I mean,
But I mean, also,
run that church.
same thing with Jonestown too. It's just like one of those things where you show up and you're like, oh my god, I can't believe I'm at a
James Earl
place
Jones, James Brown. Did I say
with
James Earl
white
Jones?
people.
Said James Earl Jones. Yeah.
Fuck.
I'm at a place with white people, and they're just
And they're all right.
it's just all about Jesus,
Yeah.
and it's really
Who
not.
is white?
But it's not.
Totally get it.
But you know what I mean? Like it's not a fucking.
Yeah. That's
It's another thing.
That's the thing is like I've said this about people's sexuality, but also it goes for race too. It's usually the least interesting thing about them.
Yes.
yeah.
Who gives a shit?
Yeah. If you're fucking like a fucking Christ maniac,
Yeah.
and you're like, you show up with that. If the person that shows up against you is a fucking Christ maniac and they happen to be black, you're like, all right, we'll get to that later.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Let's be maniacs for Christ together.
Right, yeah. Or
Exactly.
commandos for
MFC.
Christ.
Or infantry for baby G, whatever.
Infantry for baby Jesus.
See what I did? there?
Military for Mary.
Yeah.
Jihad for Joseph. I don't care.
Shut up.
Fuck you, dude.
Fuck you, dude.
All right, let's fuck off.
Let's fuck off.
I'm going to say goodnight. My name is John Fahey.
I'm gonna echo that good night with my name, Aaron Pita.
Bye, Russo.
Good night, everybody. We love you.
Good night.
Scarpins Avenue.